The next item then moves on to still stays with the counting and cardinality that we saw in the first item. I'm skipping now to item number 6 in the assessment because 4 and 5 have very much similar commentary as what we've just been talking about. So this returns to counting and cardinality, but it involves comparing two numbers between 1 and 10 presented as written numerals. This is very important to distinguish. Again, getting children to be fluent with with quantity rather, and that whole counting idea. As you can see, this is standard number 7, which I would really have this be, something that we're looking at developing over the school year, and certainly the fact that it's presented as written numerals and it's a purely symbolic situation that requires a high level of thinking for many kindergarten children. So for each pair of numbers, the children are asked to circle the greater number. Not a whole lot going on here other than them having to think about, what does 2 mean? 2 means 2 objects. 8 means 8 objects. And so if they don't have that kind of understanding, then they're going to struggle with this. It's highly unlikely that most children say that 8 is greater than 2, because when you're counting, 8 comes after 2. So that whole idea about order in terms of counting and relating it to being a greater number is probably not what many children come to you with. Because many times when they learn to count to 10, it's very much rote, like they learn to count the ABCs, or to say the ABCs. And so you'll want to be sure that this is a great one to have a discussion with, and to have students. You could do a little mini task in terms of having different children get different cards with these number sets on them, and then have them defend their response for why one number is greater than the other in each pair. The last item then that we're going to look at for kindergarten focuses on geometry. And I wanted to focus on geometry a little bit because there's some really, really important things that kindergarten and first and second grade teachers, for that matter, and you'll see in a moment, kindergarten teachers do that set the stage for student learning in geometry, as well as could do to limit student learning in geometry. So this task in particular has students composing simple shapes to form larger shapes. So let's look at what they're asked to do. So they're presented with part of a rectangle, and they're supposed to circle the piece that completes the rectangle. Now, there's some very high level vocabulary going on here. Some children may come to you and not know what a rectangle is, and so that may be something that's impeding their success. But then also, this completes the rectangle. Complete is a very high level word for many kindergarten children. Now, you're reading this to them, so they're hearing this orally, but they may not know what that means. And now, in terms of a high level task, this one is not terribly high level in terms of the visualization aspect, because I need to be able to visualize that I can take this piece here and swing it around. Now, the orientation is not changed, and certainly I'm not given bigger rectangles to kind of distract me. I am given this square, which might distract me with how it relates to fitting on top of the shape. But certainly students who struggle with this, I would definitely have a conversation with. Likewise, students who perform well on this task doesn't tell me a ton of things about shapes, because there's a couple things that are missing. In the Common Core, you'll see an explicit reference to looking at shapes regardless of size or orientation. And that is very much a big responsibility of kindergarten, first, and second grade teachers. And what that means is that, I might want to rewrite this task and put big rectangles and little rectangles, and their goal is to be able to visualize which one fits exactly. I might want to change the orientation of the shape so that maybe this top shape is turned 90 degrees and then the rectangle fits, but I have to rotate it in order to make it fit and make it like a puzzle. And so it's important, as you think about instructionally with this task, that we look at not only shapes that are our old friends, like the ones we see here, but also shapes that have different orientation and different size. So that's a snapshot of the kindergarten diagnostic, and some ideas that you might want to take away with you as you look at the different math experiences that children have this year. So we're going to look at first grade, and I'm looking at first grade a little bit different because they cluster the items very much in doing several items that have the same kind of base. And so the first set we're going to look at all deal with number and operations in base 10. They look specifically at the standards that are listed at the top of the slide, which you can look up on the Common Core website, but I listed the one that I felt like was most important to make some commentary. In first grade, we really start that place value understanding as a basis for our number and operations in base 10. And so specifically, the first 6 items of this assessment look at using a 100 chart to perform some basic addition and subtraction activities. And so you'll see some very specific instructions, if you will, or details in this standard. And this is a standard that you may want to spend some time with. Even second grade teachers may want to spend some time with in an RTI setting, because there's a whole lot going on here. You're adding a 2-digit number and a 1-digit number. You're adding a 2-digit number and a multiple of 10. You're using concrete models, and then you're also doing strategies for addition and subtraction. And then finally, this understanding that comes at the end deals with place value. And so you're understanding that adding 2-digit numbers, 10s and 10s gets added together, 1s and 1s gets added. Sometimes you have to compose a 10, which means our old friend, regrouping or borrowing. So this item that we're about, or this set of items that we're about to look at, certainly has a wealth of things going on in addition to other number and operations base 10 standards. So I'm sharing this with you today just to tell you that, in first grade we need to spend a lot of time making sure that children have a lot of different number experiences to add and subtract 2-digit numbers. So let's look at how these items unfold. Now, what they do in this assessment then is they present children with a hundreds chart several times. And I've listed 4 of the items that students are asked to complete. So you'll see in reference to the standard, they're asked to add multiples of 10, and then they're asked to add subtract multiples of 10, and then in the bottom you see there that they're asked to use what they understand about place values with 10s and 1s to color the number that has 7 10s and 6 1s. These are not difficult items, but a couple of things. First of all, if they have not seen a hundreds chart and have not worked with a hundreds chart before, that might cause the set of items, especially numbers 2 and 3, where I'm 60 less and 40 more. And that can be very difficult if I don't understand if I don't have a fluency with the hundreds chart items. So that would be something to look at instructionally with the children, because I doubt you're going to have kids who want to count back 60 by 1s. And so you want to help them see that you can use the rows to do that. And then also this understanding of place value. Now, I would challenge you to really think about place value and do some number riddles where you're not just asking 7 10s and 6 1s. Maybe you're asking 6 10s and 17 1s, where there's decomposition and recomposition of 10s and 1s involved, as well as changing up the order. Just not to make this a trick. I don't want people to get the wrong notion, but it's also to make sure that kids are really understanding what place value means. That 7 10s and 6 1s, sometimes kids will get lulled into a rote understanding of place value, and they'll just put 7 6, 7 10 6 1, 7 10 6 1. And what happens is you'll get into situations where just simply writing the numbers in the order that you see them is not going to answer the question that's being asked. So we need to start early with things like even just place value with 2-digit numbers and helping children really decipher what's being asked. So you could certainly use the tasks, the first 6 of this instrument, to very easily create a real multitude of hundreds chart activities, as well as have students create their own. Have them write their own prompts, or have them circle 2 numbers several rows apart in the same column and have them then write the number sentence. You know, this is 70 less than 47. That wouldn't work, but because that's a negative number, but something along those lines. This is 40 less than 77. That would be one that would work. And so some people are also, because of for first grade, you're asking children to work with numbers up through 120. They've extended their hundreds chart to make it a 120 chart, or some even go as far as a 200 chart. And so if you're interested in the other hundreds chart activities, I'd be happy to share some with you. But certainly what I encourage you to do is to think beyond what just these items are asking, and to really help children get that fluency with adding multiples of 10, subtracting multiples of 10, as well as that beginning place value.